Hello Year 2, how are you? And welcome to this week's geography lesson. Now in our geography lesson 2 weeks ago, we started looking at different symbols which are used on maps. Now today we're going to be carrying on with this work, but looking at the symbols that are found on a specific type of map. By the end of the lesson, you will understand why symbols are used on maps and what the purpose of a key is. Now, I know we looked at this in our last lesson, but we're going to build on this today. And by the end of the lesson, you'll also be able to look at a key to find out what a certain symbol on a map represents. Now, before we do that, over this whole topic, we have looked at a lot of vocabulary, and I think it's very important to revisit this vocabulary so that we really remember it. So our retrieval activity today is all about some of the vocabulary that we have learnt. So here you have 3 questions. In questions 1 and 3, you have a picture and you need to tell me what's in the picture. Then number 2, you need to tell me what a map maker is called. So what is their official name? Okay, so pause the video now and have a go at your retrieval activity. Okay, Year 2, so let's go through them together. Number 1, what is this called? Well, I've seen this on a map before. Have you? Yes, and it tells us the directions. It tells us where north, east, south and west are. But what is it called? Yes, you're right, it's called a compass rose, and we find a compass rose in the corner of a map, don't we? Now, sometimes we can have a physical version of this. What's the physical version called? Yes, brilliant. It's called a compass, isn't it? And some maps come with a compass that is physical, that you can hold, but other maps just come with a compass rose, which can be found in the corner of the map. Okay, number 2, what is a map maker called? Can you remember what their official name? Yes, that's right, it's a cartographer. Can everybody repeat after me? Cartographer. Fantastic. Okay, number 3, what is this called? Well, we know that a map is a simplified version of the Earth's surface because we couldn't possibly fit everything in real life onto a map in the size that it is. So therefore, they are simplified. Now, what is this in the picture? Because this is one of the ways that a cartographer simplifies a map. Yes, you're right. It's called a scale. And a scale tells you how big something is on a map compared to how big it is in real life. So here the scale is 63,360. So that means if there's a house on a map, the house in real life is 63,360 times bigger than it is on the map. So there we go. That is our scale. And well done if you've remembered all of that vocabulary. Now let's move on to today's learning. So, we have a map here. Now, you probably recognise where this map is of. Can you see Brookvale Primary School? And can you see Brookvale Park? Well done if you notice that. Now, what view is a map drawn from? Remember, it's not like we see it in everyday life, is it? No, that's not how we see Brookvale in everyday life. So from what view is a map drawn? Now, there are lots of different ways that you can say this. How many different ways can you describe from what view this map is drawn? Can you remember the exact vocabulary? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, Year 2. So from what view is this map drawn? Or from what view is any map drawn? Well, it's drawn from an aerial perspective or an aerial view. It's drawn from above. Okay, so it's looking down on the area of Brookvale. Now, can you think of any other ways other than aerial view and aerial perspective that you can describe from what view this map is drawn? Oh yes, well done. It's from a bird's eye view. So that means that that's what a bird can see when they're flying over Brookvale. Okay, so they're looking at Brookvale from above, from a bird's eye view. Now there's one other way that we can describe from what view this map is drawn. Yes, fantastic. It's from a plan view. Remember when we drew the room that we were in from a plan view from above, and we made sure it was very simple. Yes, so this map is also drawn from a plan view. So we've got aerial view, we've got aerial perspective, we've got bird's eye view, and we've got plan view. Now, it is impossible, as I said, to label every single feature in words on a map, isn't it? Because maps are simplified versions because we couldn't possibly fit everything in real life onto this map. It'd be too jam-packed. So we use map symbols. Now, we looked at some map symbols on this map in our last lesson. Can you pause the video and see if you can spot any of these symbols and work out what they represent? Okay, yeah, too. So let's have a look at some of the symbols. Well, we have got that one there that I've circled. Can you see it? Now, what do you think that symbol represents? Well, it's got some cutlery on it, hasn't it? It's got a knife and a fork. So therefore, that symbol represents a restaurant or a cafe, rather than have to write restaurant or cafe, or the name of the restaurant even. Okay, what about, oh, that one there. Can you see it? It's got the hat. Yes, you're right. That represents a school, doesn't it? Fantastic, well done. Can you see any other symbols on this map? Ah, yes, can you see that symbol? It's a cross, isn't it? Yes, and what does that represent on our map? What does that symbol represent? Yes, fantastic. It represents a church, doesn't it? Fantastic. Ow. Oh, we've got another one here. What does this symbol represent? Can you see it's got a bag? Yes, the bag represents a shop, doesn't it? Fantastic. And all of you who sent me your work were able to spot all of those different symbols on the map. So well done. Now, here we have a company called Ordnance Survey. Have you ever heard of an Ordnance Survey map? Well, in Great Britain, Ordnance Survey is responsible for producing maps, for drawing maps, and they have been producing maps since 1745, so for a very long time. Now, have you ever seen one of these maps before? Well, you might have one of these maps in your car, or when you go for a walk, a long walk, it's very useful to have one of these Ordnance Survey maps because they tell you where everything is and they use symbols. Can you see in the little part of the Ordnance Survey map? So that's inside of one of those closed Ordnance Survey maps. You have a map that looks like this, where you can see Crow Park. Now, we have some symbols here. We have a blue symbol that looks a little bit like a caravan. We've got a symbol with a P on it, and we've got a boat symbol, and we've got a symbol that says PC, and a symbol that says I. Can you see all of those different symbols? Well, the symbols that are used on an Ordnance Survey map are what's called universal. Okay, so anybody from all over the world can look at this Ordnance Survey map and understand what the symbols mean because they are the same everywhere. The symbols are universal. Everybody will know what they mean because they are the same on every map. Okay, every Ordnance Survey map that there is. Now, what are symbols? So we're talking about symbols and we've spotted some symbols on the map, but what exactly are symbols? Well, symbols are a small picture that stand for different features on a map. So like we saw the cutlery, which stood for the restaurant, and we saw the bag that stood for the shop. But the symbols on an Ordnance Survey map are slightly different to the ones that we find on Google Maps, which we looked at for Brookvale. So we will not find exactly the same symbols on the Brookvale map as we will find on an Ordnance Survey map, okay? But the Ordnance Survey maps symbols are universal. They're used across the board with Ordnance Survey maps. So anybody who uses an Ordnance Survey map will be able to understand the symbols. Okay, now, you can have a symbol that looks a bit like this, okay? So this is a shortened version of a word. Can you understand what shortened word that is? Anybody got any clues? Well, that is the symbol for a school, because look, we have the first three letters of school there, S, C, H. So therefore, if you see this on an Ordnance Survey map, it means school. There is a school where the symbol is. You can also have a line like this. Oh, what does a line show? Well, there are lots of different things that a line can show, and we will find out later. You can also have, some letters. So we've got P and O. Okay, so we have some letters. Now, what could P and O stand for? what do we have in the real world? It's a type of shop, and it starts with a P, and the second word starts with an O. Yes, fantastic. It's a post office. So there you go. PO stands for post office. And finally, we have these, which is a coloured area, and different coloured areas represent different things depending on the colour that they are in. Now, we have most symbols are understood by people from all over the world, as I said. So they are drawn as they look like in real life. So here we have a church with a tower. So you can see the cross there, which most people, when they see a cross, they think of a church, okay? Because that is a symbol of Christianity, isn't it? So anybody around the world will be able to work out that that is a church. So they looked at a map and saw that symbol, they say, oh yes, that's a church. And for example, a triangular shape is meant to show a mountain, okay? And that does show a mountain because a mountain is almost in a triangular shape, isn't it? Because it has a top, it has the peak of the mountain, and then it goes down like a triangle. Now that we know that this is a church and this is universal, okay? So everybody around the world will be able to know that that symbol represents a church because it looks like a church. What do you think these two symbols represent? Could you pause the video now and have a little think for me? Okay, yeah, too. So what do you think the first symbol represents? Do you think it looks like what it does in real life? Well, it's a lighthouse, okay? And most people from around the world, if they looked at this Ordnance Survey map, would be able to tell that that is a lighthouse. Okay, what about the next one? What does that look like? Yes, I think it looks like that too. I think it looks like a castle. So there you go. Again, we have just been looking at these pictures, and from looking at the pictures, we've been able to work out what the symbol represents. Now,